expressing the Fresh Air Incorporated, its staff, or its board of directors.
I'm Al McFarlane. Welcome to Conversations with Al McFarlane. Today is Tuesday, July 12th, 2022. I'm glad to be here and glad to have you along. My thanks always to my partners, companions here at KFAI for making this broadcast, this engagement possible. We've been doing great programming here for a long, long time. We hope to continue to do the same. But we really thank you, the listener, the viewer, for doing your part, supporting KFAI, tuning into this program and other programs. We enjoy being with you. Today, I have a great program for you. Like always, I want to welcome my writing partner, first of all, Brenda Lyle Gray, who joins me every day in Conversations with Al McFarlane. She's located in New Mexico. Brenda, how you doing?
I'm fine, and you, Al?
I'm well. Good to see you again. And let me introduce to you who are listening on our social media platforms and those on the radio as well, the new partner, new man on our team, Vash Body. He's joining us from out east. Vash, how you doing, man? And you're muted.
I actually have to add myself to the stream because, hey, everybody. How you doing, Al? Hi, Brenda.
I'm doing good. So then let's begin the program. I want to introduce my guest today. And my guest is a friend that I've had a relationship with for a long, long time. She and her husband are what I call examples of when you make building community your family business. Emma Corey is the new CEO and president of Twin Cities Rise. Twin Cities Rise is an organization based here in North Minneapolis that wants to bring improved quality of life to individuals and organizations and businesses, to families in our community by training and mentoring and by access. Emma Corey, good afternoon. Welcome to Conversations with Al McFarlane.
Thank you so much, Al. It is a pleasure to be on your show, and just such an admirer of your work. Thank you for all you do.
Well, I mentioned you and your partner, Bruce, Dr. Bruce Corey, who has been a towering figure around the notion of civic engagement, particularly for people of color, communities of color. He's been a pioneer, a visionary, a person that's articulated how we can frame mutual benefit, shared opportunity in ways that prevent us from being divided and kept apart and kept at each other's throat, but rather figuring out how we collaborate to build community that we share, that we win, and that winning for us is not somebody else losing, but it means winning for everybody, for the all of humanity. So I thank you and tell my brother Bruce how highly I regard him and continue to look forward to working with him and you in the future.
Absolutely, Al. Thank you so much for that. You know, I joke about Bruce being my in-house research department because he's got the numbers, and numbers speak so strongly, right? They tell you, and his spin has always been, and you know this, Al, his spin has always been the asset that we as a community, we as communities of color bring to Minnesota, bring to this country. And so that asset versus liability lens is so important. So yes, I completely agree. And so important for us to be working across communities for this common agenda that lifts our community, especially at a time like right now.
Well, I was at a wonderful meeting, Emma, with you, your meeting last Friday. You were introducing the new Twin Cities Rise Community Advisory Board, and you assembled just a wonderful team of excellent individuals with stories, people with stories, with connectivity, with personal power. And in your own unique fashion, you've invited them to be part of a collaborative, a process of working together to extend the work they do to and through each other. in support of you and the vision of Twin Cities Rise. So I'll tell our viewers that in the future we'll be presenting a copy or a tape of that wonderful meeting that you did last Friday. I think people will just enjoy hearing individuals' personal stories about what it means to be engaged. But let's start, Emma, today with you giving Twin Cities Rise 101. Some people might not know you, might not know the organization. So take a few minutes and just walk us through the genesis, the vision, the mission of Twin Cities Rise.
Absolutely, Al. Thank you for that opportunity. You know, I refer to Twin Cities Rise in North Minneapolis as a small but mighty nonprofit that is doing transformational work in our community. Twin Cities Rise was founded by senior executive from General Mills 30 years ago. Steve Rothschild started it in North Minneapolis, and his focus was on impacting poverty in North Minneapolis among Black men. That was the focus. And what is beautiful about Twin Cities Rise is that our focus on the Black community and the disparities that must and continue to need to be addressed remains the focal point of Twin Cities Rise today. And as I take on the helm at Twin Cities Rise only April of this year, so just a few months, just at that 90-day point right now. I'm coming from a rich career, 25-year career with the state of Minnesota, but taking on Twin Cities Rise for me was a heart decision. It was a heart decision because it is about the direct service of our communities. It is about looking at disparities squarely in the face and saying, what can our organization, what can my team do today to address the disparities that absolutely ravage our communities? And I would add that we do it. So our mission is basically Twin Cities Rise transforms lives impacted by racial and socio-economic factors. And we do it through personal empowerment, career training, and meaningful employment. That encompasses what we do, who we are, and why we exist.
Let's give people an idea of what the numbers say for our community. Maybe you have those really accessible. But, you know, the George Floyd murder and the challenges that came out of that have focused attention on Twin Cities and on Minnesota and on a system of long-standing disparities in every arena. Do you have any data that you're operating out of that describe how real the problem is?
Absolutely. You know, the simple and easy way to look at this is when DEET comes out with their numbers about unemployment, almost every single time there is another piece of data that is very important for us to remember. And even when you have a low unemployment, record low unemployment in the 2% on unemployment, we're talking about double of that when you look at a microcosm of the Black community. That is the number that I focus on. And basically what that means is, yes, we have record low unemployment, but our communities that are closest to the ground and that are really needing the supports, there is still a pretty major disparity among employment opportunities and access to good jobs to our people of color, and most specifically our Black community. So that is the number, that is the dynamic that we need to be focusing on. The other piece, Al, that is a little bit more worrisome to me, and I'm sure to those of like you that have been so embedded in getting the word out, communicating about the issues, is we have a very dangerous level of number of people that are so disillusioned and disconnected and discouraged that they are also turning away from even looking for jobs. And those numbers are not even in our unemployment numbers, right? The person that says to me, Mrs. Corey, please do not ask me to work for somebody who asks for the only thing I have when I walk in as to an employer, and they ask for my pride and dignity every day. You know, that is a tough thing to hear, but it is a true thing. And those are the people that I worry most about, because they're saying, I'm not even looking. I am done. I am not even looking. I would rather, run Uber or DoorDash or not be working and live within what I get. And that's the dangerous dynamic. We want to reach those people, and we want to walk the journey with them.
I'm Al McFarlane. This is Conversations with Al McFarlane. My guest is Emma Corey. She's new president, CEO of Twin Cities Rise, a Northside-based group focusing on jobs in particular, but quality of life in general, creating opportunity, awareness, partnerships, engagement, and bringing solutions to our community. Emma, let's go back to your career at the state of Minnesota. Walk us through that. And what kinds of assignments did you have, and how does all of that feed into the energy and leadership that you bring to Twin Cities Rise?
Absolutely. Thank you, Al, for that. I started at the state of Minnesota at 1997 at the Department of Natural Resources. And I was fortunate enough to start actually not working full-time, part-time, but I was recruiting for conservation officers from the Southeast Asian community. It was a grant that the DNR had received, or money that the DNR had received from the legislature, because our Hmong, Vietnamese, Cambodian, Laotian brothers and sisters love to hunt and fish, but don't always have that concept of rules and regulations and seasons and limits. And so basically our charge, and I was hired into that role, our charge was to recruit and bring on licensed peace officers from the communities that had credibility and knew the language to be our bridge to the community. And I'm proud to say that I hired our first Hmong officer, I hired our first Vietnamese officer, and I hired our first Cambodian officer. 2 just retired, so it's making me feel old now after a long career of almost 20 years, 24 years. So again, that was where I started. Most of my career then was what shaped my career at the state was at the DOT. We were recruiting for students. Every single job of mine has in some way, shape, or form been connected to building, connecting our communities with stable government jobs. So I've been in the workforce development business for a bit. Most recently was the director of driver and vehicle services at the Department of Public Safety. Commissioner John Harrington asked me to come over and work for him for 2 years. I was on loan from the DOT, and we fixed MNLARS. We've got the new DMV system. We even worked with, legislators, that helped to stem the fines, the stacking of fines. And that happened during my leadership. So the new DMV system, which is Minnesota Drive, was put in place. We were on time, under budget. And we also broke the cycle of poverty for our brothers and sisters that get fines and then can't pay them, and then drive without a license and get another fine, another fine. The legislation that came into place it helped to break that cycle of stacking of fines. And there are several legislators that did fantastic work, but we at the department helped to put it in place.
Great. You have been active in the Rondo community in St. Paul as well. Talk about your community presence, if you don't mind, your personal engagement in
Yes.
community, and we'll come back and talk more about Twin Cities Rise. I think it's all
Yes.
related. It's all the
It
same.
is. Oh,
Yeah.
it so is. It so is. You know, God takes us in different places and God takes us in different directions. I strongly believe that where we are born and where we serve impacts where where that journey takes us. And it's very interesting, Al, that you bring up the Rondo connection, because St. Peter Claver, in the heart of Rondo, Lexington in 94, is my church, has been my church for 27 years now. It's an African American parish in the heart of Rondo. And that was the church that welcomed me when I first came to this country from India in 1995. And I will never forget my adopted maybe almost a great grandmother, Grandma Wilson, we would call her. She was an African American that lived through Rondo, and I was working at DOT, and she talked about how the freeway went through her home, right? And all of those connections. So very deep, sentimental connection with a woman and a neighborhood and a church that had weathered the storm of government, and that impacted my work at DOT, where we built this connection with Black businesses, so that when we did projects, we were impacting in a positive way Black businesses, and Black businesses were being heard at the table, and workforce development was happening in our Black community when it came to DOT jobs and DOT projects. So you're right, there's a circle, and that connection is always there. I'll never forget, I joke about St. Peter Claver. We had our women, it's an African American parish, and we had our ladies of St. Peter Claver. And that first Sunday in the winter of 1995, and I came to church and I had a white pair of shoes on, and the ladies of the church very discreetly but very clearly told me that you did not wear white in winter. So it was my integration into our church and our community. Just fond memories. Our both our kids are St. Peter Claver babies, and that church and that parish brought them up.
I think I was at the christening of your youngest child. Is that what it was? When I was there at St. Peter.
Yes,
that was cool. And then our friend Yusef Mjini is there. That's his church as well.
Absolutely. One of our pillars.
The church is an institution, both in the city, but also I think in the country as well. I think Denzel Carty's still there when you were there?
We are known to be the single Black church in the nation that has turned out the most Eagle Scouts of color. And my son was one of them. I'm so proud.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Oh, good. Well, I'm Al McFarlane. This is Conversations with Al McFarlane. My guest is my friend, Emma Corey, and we're talking about her in general, but particularly about her work as the leader, the new president and CEO of Twin Cities Rise. And as I said at the beginning, on Friday of last week, I attended an event she hosted inviting people to be part of the first advisory board, a community network, advisory network to support the work of Twin Cities Rise. And what I loved about that meeting, Emma, was that you took the time, it was a 90-minute meeting, to have everybody that you've invited to be a part of this initiative to introduce themselves, tell their personal story. Nobody was rushed, right? And everybody was respectful, though, that a lot of us were in the room. Some of us virtually like me, but many were in the room, and people were just freely sharing why they were connected to Twin Cities Rise and why they were connected to you. And again, it's an example of the inseparability of a certain life and a certain work. And I think you represent the integration of life and work, of meaningfulness and meaning creation in a community about community. So people came and talked about why they were there, why they were invited, and why they were happy to be a part of a network in service to the Twin Cities Rise proposition. And what you asked them was that each of them take a role in referring participants. How do we get more people in the door so that they can be enriched personally by the training, the mentoring, the coaching that goes on at Twin Cities Rise? And you also asked each of them to figure out where and how they could volunteer, what they could do personally at whatever level of comfort and whatever resources of understanding and engagement they could bring. And you also sought their support in your strategic planning, looking for their ideas on how they could grow or support outreach programming, fundraising, ways to make the organization stronger and better. And so I thought it was just a great idea and a great way to present and to get that engagement. How do you feel about what happened? And you can walk us through, if you would, the planning for that event, what goals you had in doing it, and what actually happened. And looking back, how do you think it happened? How did it go?
Absolutely. Al, I am so honored by the collaboration that we have, and the energy and the passion and the fierce will to support and lift our communities. I think that was the power of that room. The people that I asked and that came to that table are intensely feeling the need to lift up our communities at this time, at this point in time. And so, what I think was integral to that group is we are not being naive about the circumstances of today. The pandemic has ravaged us. It has separated, it has created, the world of work has changed. The economic challenges are different, but some things have not changed, and that is the systemic issues that hold back our communities, the systemic issues around access, the systemic issues around, just the ability to be able to break the stereotypes, right? And things like that. So what that tells us is that organizations like us must be courageous. I've always tried to live by that mantra. I learned it from my upbringing, and that is, when you are in a position to make a difference or make a decision that can make the difference, it is no longer an option. It is a responsibility. Mm-hmm. It is a responsibility. And so those are like-minded folks. Those are either folks that I worked with and have mutually supported each other. And so they have been on the journey into breaking the stereotypes and building their career. So they are on fire to give back now. That's the beauty I have seen. So many that maybe I hired as students are now managers and are hiring. April Lucas was in the room. I hired her 16 years ago. Today, she is on my board as a board member at TCR. And now I find out that she was a 2000 graduate of TCR. I mean, that is full circle. That is full circle. It's amazing. So, when people have a personal connection, they are unstoppable. Mm-hmm. And to tap into that is something magical, because then we can really exponentiate the impact that we have, because there is a heart connection, not just a head connection. There's a heart connection. And that, I think, it's infectious. It's wonderful to see. I think TCR CAN is what we put together. We call it TCR Twin Cities Rise CAN, CAN, for Community Advisors Network. And certainly symbolically, that whatever we set our mind to do, we can do it together. We're very strong together.
I'm Al McFarlane. This is Conversations with Al McFarlane. My guest is Emma Corey. She's the new president, CEO of Twin Cities Rise. We're talking about that organization, about her work in the community. Emma, let me take you into some deep water. And by that, I always question or ask myself and others about what does change really mean? What does change really require? And I want to, and I question in my own mind, the idea that are we simply talking about fixing something that is basically okay, that needs patchwork here or there? Or are we talking about something more basic, more elemental, and something that at one level or another must undergo transformation? And transformation can be looked at in two ways, either as a threat to what exists already, or it can be looked at as a natural evolution and enhancement of and move towards the potential of all that exists. I choose to see it that way, but I know that people are fearful. And so the question is, how do you see, what do you think about the work that we're doing? Are we educating, training people to simply fit into systems that in and of themselves are oppressive at some level or another? Or is the training that we do, the access we provide, also something that enables transformation even from within the structures that presently, either intentionally or not, have an oppressive impact on society? What do you think?
I am taking a deep breath as I respond to this, definitely a deep, deep question. Change can be fleeting and short-term. Transformation is long-term, and we should seek transformation because that is lasting change. That is fundamental change that can really change the way things are. And it's not easy. We all know it. We all know it. But what I choose to believe and what I choose to focus on is transformation in the areas that you have control and you're able to. Worrying about the universe paralyzes you and then you do nothing. I choose to figure out what can be influenced and let's go at it and make transformation happen in that piece of the pie or that piece of the world or that piece of the process that you control. Because there is no reason to not be able to do that because it is in your control, right? And so that I think has been very fulfilling for me. So what I would say about Twin Cities Rise is I will tell it with a story. A recent graduate sent a note to one of his coaches and said, it was late at night, and he sent this note and he said, Coach, I want to thank you because what happened at work yesterday could have been disaster for me. But what you taught me and what I learned at Twin Cities Rise allowed me to keep my remote and avoid a situation that could have ended up really badly. What he meant by that was there's terminology at Twin Cities Rise where we say, hold on to your remote. And even if you lose it, find a way to get it back because you do not want to allow others to press your buttons. You want to be in control of your buttons and you want to be able to recognize your buttons. You want to recognize your triggers. You want to recognize what hits deep and help makes you lose control and find ways to be able to breathe and say 1, 2, 3, 4 and then decide what your action is. That is what we teach. That is what we coach. That is what we walk alongside with our candidates and people every day in their graduation are telling me. I had a staff member today in an earlier call say, transformation, empowerment at Twin Cities Rise changed my life, Emma. And every single TCR employee first goes through transformation themselves. I am beginning that class in a week. And so when we talk about what Twin Cities Rise does is through its signature empowerment program, 8 weeks, we are helping people. We are not empowering folks. We are helping people find it in themselves to be empowered and to be motivated to change the trajectory of their life, to smash the stereotypes, to be able to move forward, to be able to break the cycle of poverty, to walk into a workspace and see how they can impact it so that it is a win-win for both. And so I would say definitely transformation, and we're working on it every day. I'm so glad to be on your show, Al. Thank you for this opportunity.
Well, so glad to have you here, and thank you for that response. Let me just wrap this with you, because your answer was perfect for me, Emma, in that I hear you saying that the pathway, you framed it differently, but here's how I heard you. The pathway to changing even the universe starts with the individual, that she or he who must control her or his body, the space that person occupies. If that person focuses on the transformative experience, the experience of becoming the very best human being that person can be, in alignment morally, spiritually, in terms of community, in terms of legacy, recognizing all of the ancestors, and also in alignment with the dream, the potential of the future, the obligation to those yet unborn, that somewhere in the middle of that space, transformation exists, and it becomes sort of universal, not the right word, but cosmic, eternal. And so that search for being, in fact, is personal work. And that's where transformation, and through that, you can transform the entire society and create futures that recognize the presence of that power in every human being and in other things in nature as well. How does that sound to you?
Absolutely. I couldn't have said it better. Absolutely, Al. Absolutely. It starts from strength in here. And that radiates. Yes, we have to work with the systems. We have to challenge the systems. I am going to work with employers that match our mission, that believe in what we believe in, because then we are sending our participants to a place where they will not demand their pride and dignity. They will embrace them and see what the value that they add. And so it's very important. Yes, internal transformation and continuous work on, of course, systemic change, and where we live as a community and where we work as a workplace and what we call home. It's work that will continue, but we've got to continue to chip away, and we cannot afford to let up.
What's coming up? What's on the agenda? What's the work plan for Twin Cities Rise in terms of the community and the public?
Absolutely. We are just adding a new program to our already list of career offerings. We are this fall starting.
Take a minute. What are the career? Go through that. What are the career offerings that you?
Yes. The 4 offerings that we have are My Road to Success. So if you're not quite sure the kind of job you want to go into, but you can do more, you can do better, that's your class. It's My Road to Success. And that's a broader, more generic class Again, 8 weeks. The next one is call center customer service. So you could be going into the DMV call center or the Minsure or Target or, call center customer service. That's your second line. And then your third one is facilities and maintenance. So facilities and maintenance and connected kinds of jobs, very hands-on opportunities. And then this fourth one, which we are adding, and that is a diesel technician position. So again, we are looking at demographics, we're looking at job trends, and we are looking at our capacity and trying to walk into the places where we are able to deliver a superior program and have strong employers on the other end to take on our graduates.
Great. Let me see. What else do I want to ask you? We were talking about then what's on the near horizon, what's on the agenda. You've mentioned you're adding the fourth program. Any opportunities for public engagement, public support?
Absolutely. So a couple of things. We are looking for good employers that share our mission because we want to try a new approach. And that is, rather than the employers at the back end, I would like to walk a journey with, say, 3 employers from beginning to end. So if we have employers that are saying, I like what y'all are doing at Twin Cities Rise, I'm willing to be an integral partner, an employer partner from the get-go. We will recruit together. We know what the promise of the job is. You're invested in curriculum development. You are invested in the time when we are training our folks to go through their interviewing and resume building, and then, of course, at the job end. So I'm looking at partnerships with good employers that are focused on not just diversifying their workforce, but they are interested in committing to a diverse workforce for the long haul, where they are wanting to hire people at the entry, mid, and high levels, people of color. Those are the employers I want to work with. I'm looking for community partners that will challenge us and say, hey, yes, y'all have been doing this. This is working great, but Twin Cities Rise, you can do better here. I'm looking for that challenge because we want to make a difference. And finally, I would say I am looking for foundations, organizations, and individuals, people of color. Let's invest in a program like Twin Cities Rise so that we can say, this is our program, and we keep participants at the heart of it, not a system or numbers that a grant tells us we need to fit into. We are working with our participants to meet them where they are and to meet their needs as we walk that journey with them out of a place that is uncertain and hopeless to a place where they can see and feel that there is a community that's embracing them and walking that journey with them.
Brenda Lyle Gray is my writing partner. She's with us every day, actually, from New Mexico. And Brenda is an educator. She has worked in the field of preparing young people for productivity in life. By the way, Emma, Brenda and I talk about this. We were in kindergarten together in Kansas City. And so we have a 70-plus year relationship. And it's exciting to be working together now. We're both, 74, 75, so it's kind of cool. But
That's
Brenda,
amazing.
Any thoughts or questions or comments of Emma? And I want to mention that our friend Maestre Sena is also going to be joining the program in a minute. He's in Bahia, and always glad to see him. He'll be on in a couple of seconds. Any thoughts, Brenda?
I'm really impressed with the program, and I think that one of the big things for me, I had just written about a candidate that's running for a county seat, and one of her statements was she ran into a young man, and he said he just didn't think anyone in the community cared about him. There was no one around to embrace him. He didn't feel like there were opportunities and careers for him. So he had just literally given up. And she said she wondered how many young Black men in the community, especially in North Minneapolis, felt the same way. Mm-hmm. And she said, this is one of the key things that needs to be changed. We have to give young people hope. And right now they don't have a lot. You know, it's like, why am I going to school? I'm so far behind because of the pandemic. And what I hear from you is that Twin Cities Rise is giving that. And more people need to hear about your work. So congratulations to you. And I wish you the best because it's exactly what our children need.
Oh, Brenda, thank you so much. You know, we are going to, in fact, we are thinking about a men's group, potentially even, young men's group. We will actually do the first of our sessions around, just issues that plague our men. And we will have a taste of it at our first event, July 30th, community celebration that's coming up in our parking lot. In fact, actually, Al, we'll get that to you. But yes, it will be a community celebration, but also a resource meet and greet for the community in our parking lot at 1301 Bryant Avenue, July 30th, 10 to 2 p.m., 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Thank you so much, Brenda. Thank you so much, Al.
Let me introduce you to a friend of mine who used to live in Twin Cities, who's moved back home. Home to him is Bahia in Brazil, South America. Maestre Yoji Sena is a capoeira teacher, master, taught that here, but also is teaching that now in Bahia. And we have discovered greater connection now that he's in Bahia. And I'm pleased that he's been able to join this program on a regular basis, just talking, friends talking, friends providing a critique to each other and to who is listening or watching of our sense of what's happening in the world. Brother, how are you? Good to see you. Let me introduce you to Sister Emma Corey, who is one of the leaders in the community here. Maestre Seni, how you doing? Sena, how are you?
I'm doing all right. Thank you for
good.
having me on one more time. It's a pleasure to be around you and your guests. I learn a lot, and it's a moment of comfort for me too.
Well, your voice is healing for me and a moment for comfort for me. I love hearing your voice, and I love hearing what you say, how you use the voice. You know, I want to tell people that hopefully in next week's edition of Insight, you'll see a new column that Maestre Sena and I and another gentleman are collaborating on. It's a column by a brother, Jesus Chucho Garcia. Chucho Garcia is a Venezuelan diplomat who served as a consul in New Orleans. He's lived here in Twin Cities. Presently, he's in Colombia, and he submitted the first of a series of articles written in Spanish that we're going to publish in the section of Insight News that we call Afro-Descendants. So I reached out to Yoji and said, listen, can you translate this into Portuguese? I had it back in about an hour, I think, or less in Portuguese. And so what I intend to do is to present his first article, and the article has to do with the transformation that's occurring right now in Colombia. Colombia elected a progressive former revolutionary fighter to become its next president. He takes office in August. And August 7th, I think, is when they get sworn in. But he chose an Afro-Colombian woman to be his vice president. So now you're going to have a ultra progressive, a revolutionary leader, educator, but fighter. in the as head of government, and the second in command is a Black woman. She's a lawyer, and that's pretty exciting. So Jesus Chucho Garcia wrote about that in the history of the Cimarrones, what there's a Brazilian word for that, for Cimarrones.
Quilombolas.
The what is it?
Quilombolas.
Quilombolas, right? Quilombo. Zumbi de Colombo, right? Do Colombo. Colombo. Quilombo. So anyway, I'm excited that we're going to be able to present this article and hopefully this series in at least 3 languages. And through Yoji, I met a group of wonderful people in Brazil and in Lagos who are exploring and developing, nurturing reconnecting the experience that was created by, and also I don't know what the right word for it is, but also shaped by the transatlantic slave trade, the resistance, but also what has come out of that, in the sense that many Brazilians were able to move back to Lagos, to Nigeria. And there's a Yoruba community in Brazil that's connected to the Yoruba motherland in Nigeria. And that conversation we're having, I say thanks to you, Senna, is going to be important. And because of that, I've reached out to one of the people you introduced me to ask her if she would translate the articles into Yoruba. So here's the big picture. I'm looking at presenting an article that's coming out of Colombia in Spanish by an Afro-Venezuelan who's in Colombia right now, but he'll be back in Venezuela. That's translated by a brother who's in Bahia, who it's also translated by a sister in Yoruba land in Nigeria, and translated by me from Spanish to English, and presenting that package in our newspaper.
Wow.
Why would you do that, Al McFarlane? The idea is to normalize the many ways we speak and know each other around the planet and through the diaspora, to make it not strange and not weird and not hard and not unimaginable that I should see something written in Yoruba or hear something written in Portuguese that comes from Brazil, or see something that's written in Spanish. That all of these are ways our people, African people, know each other, know themselves, and express each other. So with that, I want to say thank you. And to our listeners and viewers, look out for this in the future. I think it's a direction that is going to be important in reshaping our sense of who we are as global families, not limited and locked into particular prescribed realities that limit us. Maestro Senna, what do you think about that?
Well, what I was thinking is, what is you are facilitating in certain way or explicitly is Pan-Africanism, through this column. We be aware of each other in present time, and knowing that the struggles are still common to us, being for those living in the United States, to those living in Nigeria, those living here in Brazil or Colombia or Venezuela, right? The struggle for Black people, it's present as well, ancient, So our ancestors did go through the same things that we are still resisting. Instead of using fighting or battling, I decided to restrict the use of that fighting words to apply to situations, even though I'm a fighter. But for example, here in Brazil, slavery is still alive. People don't know. Mm-hmm. Here in Bahia, in the last 2 months, there were 2 ladies that had spent 40 years one and 54 years, I think the other one, as a slave, working on domestic chores, on families' houses. And when they say here, it's like they're like our family. But these ladies were deprived of their freedom to go and come from. They're deprived from being paid for decades, you know, and then that's something that just baffles me. But also last week, they bust 24 Paraguayans that were slaves too, here in Brazil, working in a cigarette factory. So the slavery, for example, you regularly see the public prosecutor busting those situations, and they just don't happen on rural areas that they are more distant, but they happen in the middle class neighborhoods of those modern cities that we live here. You know, so what you're doing is adding to this resistance, and hopefully we do something to transform, as the sister Emma said earlier, transform the lives of people, of young people. When she mentioned about this sense of young people not feeling that there is hope for the future, I can really understand as an older man now, because when I was young, I did have a lot of impetus and and trust that the future would be better. But as the time passed, I realized that it's not really the case. You know, another fact, like 2 days ago, here we are in the middle of a political campaign for president. Hopefully, the Workers' Party, PT, the PT, Partido dos Trabalhadores, is going to bring back Lula to power. And Lula has promised that this time is going to be the largest numbers of black men and women that's going to be elected. So, for moments, there is glimpse of hope, but the situation is really dire all over. You know, a lot of people here ask me why I came back to Brazil. I think in the back of their minds they think I got deported, but because it's baffling for them that how I, who was living in heaven, returned to earth. You know, and you know, and always there is a give and take. No place is really perfect, but in my case here, to me, it's much more comfortable and secure. Stay around my people. You know, not only people by race, but my people by culture. So, and they are very surprised when I describe certain situations or certain realities that there is in the United States, or there is in Minneapolis or in North Minneapolis, where we still are not taken as a full citizen. You know, where our potential are not fulfilled because of systemic issues. You know, so yeah. Today I'm in the middle. I'm a little bit hopeful and a little bit pessimistic.
Well, I heard one of our participants say, she described it and asked her, what do you mean by that? She said she is a, what did Angela say, Brenda? She was a Afro pessimist. So that's a category of thought. It's a school of thought now, Afro pessimism, but it doesn't mean surrender or defeat. It means a healthy skepticism, and it means confidence and willingness to doubt everything and doubt everybody, and to trust your own eyes, and to suspect that people are capable of being up to no good, and expecting them to prove their goodness or their worth by their deeds. Well, look, we're out of time, but Yoji, as I said at the beginning, I love your voice. I love hearing your voice. Your voice is relaxing, and it's soothing, and it's healing.
It is.
The vibration of your voice is a good one.
Oh,
And
man.
I hope that at some point in time, you have a chance to bring your drum on and do something with the drum. Let me tell our listeners that next week we're going to be doing a special show. I'm going to be interviewing my brother, Wayne McFarlane, and his band. They're going to be playing next Tuesday night down at the Dakota Jazz Club in downtown Minneapolis. So we're going to drop in there at sound check and do their sound check and have our show produced live as part of the sound check. So some live music, and a special guest for that day is going to be Justin Hartley, the actor Justin Hartley, a television star. He's there representing my other brother, Micah McFarlane, who's the originator of the brand called Revel Avila. It's a tequila. And they are sponsoring a concert coming up that same week, a concert by Gary Clark Jr. So they will be on the program promoting the concert, but promoting Wayne's music, promoting Micah's work as an entrepreneur, the engagement he has with Morelos, Mexico, and the farming community there to bring a product to market. And he's moving in space that a lot of Black people have not had a chance to move into, in terms of bringing a financial entity to the market. So a lot of good stuff coming up. Emma, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much. And we're going to keep this conversation going, Emma.
Absolutely. So nice to meet you also, Senna. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Al.
I'm Al McFarlane. This is Conversations with Al McFarlane. I'm going to go back to the studio at KFAI. Make sure you check us out. We've got some messages for you here on the screen, I believe, that let you know how to stay connected to Insight News. I'm Al McFarlane. We'll see you next time. I'm okay, great.